Good evening. It's Friday, April 2nd, 2021, and I really doubt that this video is going to be posted tonight. If not, it will be definitely posted tomorrow. Much has been lost with symbolism. Symbolism was very important to our northern pagan ancestors. Look at the runes. The runes are a perfect example. Symbols. The constellations, symbols in nature, all around us. Symbols and symbolism. And a lot of that symbolism has been lost. It's a dumbing down through indoctrination. Judeo-Christian indoctrination, mandatory when our people were first forced converted and required to attend daily mass or church services where this just constant indoctrination took place. And then by the third generation, you have people spewing that information as if it's true. This video is going to be about Easter, but that's something I will return to momentarily. I want to play this short little video clip. Lester Holt is making a statement. He won an award. It is the Edward R. Murrow Award. He's the NBC nightly host, I believe. It's not a show I watch ever. So, but he makes a statement, and I want to play you that statement, and then I want to discuss it because it plays into Easter.
I think it's become clearer that fairness is overrated. Well, before you run off and tweet that headline, let me explain a bit. The idea that we should always give two sides equal weight and merit does not reflect the world we find ourselves in. That the sun sets in the west is a fact. Any contrary view does not deserve our time or attention. Now, I know recent events assure that you won't have to look far to find more current and relevant examples.
Okay. So Mr. Holt thinks that he has all of the facts and therefore does not need to present any other sides of the story. That is communistic. That is censorship. But you might be saying, but the sun does set in the west, so that's a fact. He's right. Well, no, he's not. He's wrong. Judeo-Christianity, in their indoctrination, had everyone believe that we were geocentric, that everything revolved around Earth because we are the apple of God's eye. But they were wrong. We're heliocentric. Everything revolves around the sun. The sun does not move. Now, people that said that hundreds of years ago were censored. Galileo being one of them. There was a list, a Christian list of who was censored and who was not. Karl Marx was not on that list. So the sun does not set in the west. The earth revolves and your position moves easterly into a position of darkness. The sun does not move. But Mr. Holt doesn't want to hear that. Mr. Holt would believe perfectly well that the earth is flat just a few hundred years ago, because that is what was fact taught by Judeo-Christianity. The earth was flat, and in 1492, the fool Christopher Columbus was going to sail off the edge of it. That was fact. Why listen to anything else? Put them on a list of censorship. And these buffoons are winning awards because they think they know the facts to indoctrinate you. This is how indoctrination works. It is not giving all sides of a story so that you can gather as much information as possible and make an educated, informed decision based upon your worldview. This is saying, here's what we want you to know because we've already determined it to be true. And it's bogus. It's communism. It's a propaganda arm, just like those mandatory indoctrination services were propaganda arms of the king that was in bed with the church at the time. This is a propaganda arm. We'll tell you what we want you to know because we've decided what's fact and true. That was just something I needed to get off my chest because symbolism brings us to Easter. Now, if you have this book, Northern Paganism, Exposing Abraham, or this book, which includes that book and 5 others, we discuss symbolism immensely in that book. There is a key tenet to Christianity that if you were to remove that tenet, if you were to cast doubt on or totally obliterate it, as we've done, then Christianity is, Judeo-Christianity is a fraud. It's gone. There's nothing to it. And that tenet is all focused on this weekend. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Why? Because Good Friday through Easter Sunday. But wait a minute. That's not 3 days and 3 nights and as Jonah was in the belly of a whale. Because in their Bible, they say that Jesus will be in the heart of the earth as Jonah was in the belly of a whale. 3 days and 3 nights. Friday evening, that's not even a full day, half a day, to Saturday evening, so you have 1.5 days, to Sunday morning, so you have 1 3/4. We'll give it 2. That doesn't equal it. But here's the thing. This is all in here. As a matter of fact, we've even put a chapter in this book on page, it begins on page 57, called The Resurrection Count, as per the texts of Abraham. When the Bible writers wrote those texts, they gave themselves the full 3 days and 3 nights for Jesus to be in the heart of the earth. And those were Wednesday through Thursday through Friday and Saturday morning. So we have Wednesday to Saturday. They gave themselves the full 3 days because they had to. Otherwise, you have a major contradiction. But with the forced conversion of northern pagans to Christianity, they had to modify the count, the days that it was celebrated on, because Easter is pagan. It's northern pagan. And we explain all of that in that book, like I said, which is included in this book. So, Easter. What is Easter? Well, we just had the Loki full moon, the trickster moon. In the north, you have occurring in nature, you have a time of trickery. You have spells of warmth where snow and ice are melting, combined with a blast from the north where you get freezing temperatures and more snow. A time of trickery in nature. Just like in the fall, the same thing happens. Two gray areas, just like Loki is called gray when he disguises himself as an older woman. It's in that book, which is also included in this book. And finds out what would kill Balder. So, this Easter, where does it come from? Well, if you look up the etymology of Easter, it means Old English Osterdag, Northumbrian Oster, from Proto-Germanic Ostran, dawn. Also the name of a goddess of fertility in spring. That would be Ostara. Perhaps originally of sunrise, whose feast was celebrated at the spring equinox from Ost, east, toward the sunrise. From Proto-Indo-European os, to shine, especially of the dawn. I'm going to stop right there because that proves the point. Okay, in Old Norse, in the Poetic Edda, we have the word Ostri. It means east. In Swedish, it's Öster. Öster. This is where we get Easter from. So why is the east so important? Well, as I discussed in that video I made about the full moon and the Loki moon. In the north, you just went through the Fimble winter, the three giantess maidens, roughly mid-December through mid-January, through mid-February, through mid-March. Now you're coming into that time of the spring equinox, when the northern pagan year begins. Things are starting to warm up. The sun is increasing. Dawn of the year. The sun is increasing from the Ostri. And rebirth is taking place. There's blood in the snow from rebirth. This is why eggs and bunny rabbits are symbols of Ostri, of Easter. Baskets. Why the basket? We've discussed this not only in our books, but in previous videos. The basket, the cauldron of the Great Bear constellation, is overhead right when all of this is happening. When all of this birth, afterbirth, amniotic fluid, melting of rivers, lakes, snow melt, is all mingling together to give you blood and water. Symbolism. Now, this was all manipulated into being a Jesus on the cross. Stabbed in the side with a spear, and blood and water come out. Blood and water. Now, I've heard Bible commentators pontificate on this and with excuses. Jesus, first off, you know that I know, that you know, we all know that Jesus was not real. Jesus never existed. Jesus was a symbol. If you read the New Testament, he is at the best, a beta male. If you read this book, you know he's androgynous, like his father, and they're evil. The father God is actually evil of the Abrahamic texts. Jesus is a symbol of what? Feminine. He is the death of the feminine on a phallic symbol, on a masculine symbol. Stabbed in the side, so he's pregnant during this time of ostri, when blood is being mingled with the water in nature, and everything is ready just to birth. Earth is pregnant. Nature is pregnant. Everything is ready to burst. In the fictional character, Jesus gets stabbed in the side while hanging on a phallic symbol in a bent snake-like position, and blood and water come out. I cannot connect these dots any clearer. But I will. I will try, because in this book, which is also in this book, we've got to have some levity here. On page 41, I'm looking at this book here. Page 41. Just to read you a short little piece of this. So you see, Pascha does not mean a Christian Easter, nor does it mean a Jewish Passover, nor any sort of Abrahamic combination of the two. It means pussy. The bag, pouch, womb is full. This is all expounded upon and presented earlier than page 41 here. It is a northern pagan celebration. The great bear has passed overhead. Mother goddess Freya has made her choices, and rebirth will take place from her cauldron or basket, which begins the year, and our cosmic bear is directly overhead with her cauldron, Valhalla. Our northern pagan ancestors were matriarchal. That is why the bent, curved, serpentine-like figure that they call Jesus in the American language, English language, was hung upon the cross and stabbed in the pregnant belly, making blood and water come out. They are symbolizing the death of the feminine. But wait a minute. The feminine goes into the underworld and then rises after 3 days. That's what they say, even though they never found a tomb. They say they did, but they haven't found, what was his name? Carl Pippenson's tomb either, Charlemagne. They don't know where his tomb is. One of the heroes, the culture heroes, probably fictitious. They can't find his tomb. They have several locations, but I digress. They have this Jesus. We've discussed this in previous videos. We've put this in our writings, in our books. They have this hero after the death of the feminine on the phallic symbol called the cross. They have him come back as masculine. See, now he's a hero. Now he's got the sword protruding from his mouth. Well, that's in our books too. A phallic symbol coming out of the mouth of their hero. Okay, that's okay. Let's. I'm gonna wrap this video up with showing another piece of evidence that this figure, mythological character called Jesus on the cross, is a woman. A symbol of the woman, because he never existed. It's symbolic. Remember, they are indoctrinating, programming our ancestors for this to be fact, and there can be no other side of the story discussed. You'll lose your land. You'll lose your property. You'll be considered an outcast, tortured, raped, murdered for believing otherwise. Or, like Galileo, he was just censored. His books, his writings. Only one side can be heard. So, page 36 of this book, which is in this book. Quote, as we've also shown in Northern Paganism, Choices and Growth, writers of the Abrahamic text have Jesus state, Matthew 16:4, quote, a wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign, and no sign shall be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. And he left them and departed, end quote. Later, the mythology states Jesus hung from and died upon a phallic symbol and was penetrated by a spear, phallic symbol, where blood and water came out of him. That's in John 19:34, just as it does from a woman in childbirth. Remembering the list which symbolizes the mother included cavernous as a representation of motherhood, the womb and vulva. In Numbers 25 of the Old Testament, writers of the Abrahamic texts relate in verse 1 through 6, a wicked and adulterous generation. Then in verse 7, an offspring of the tribe of Levi, which we also talk about in this book, took his spear or lance in his hand. There's a phallic symbol. In verse 8, it becomes very specific. The man is thrust through, and the woman through her belly. Isha el-Kova. Isha el-Kova can also read woman with belly. In other words, she was pregnant. However, if we allow it to remain as the English has it, with the word through, it still relates a pregnant woman. And when you stab a pregnant woman in the belly or side, the kova, the cavernous womb, or vulva, the pussy, blood and water come out. Amniotic fluid. Easter is a theft and massive manipulation from Northern paganism, from the transition from the Fimble winter, the mighty winter, the three giantess maidens, in the time of rebirth, reincarnation. But you're only allowed to know one side of the story, that Jesus hung from a cross, he died for your sins, and that's all bunk. That is all a lie to program you. You don't need to hear another side of the story. They're the arbiters of fact and truth, right? And the sun sets in the west, and the earth is flat. Anyways, that's where I'm going to end this video. Till next time, or till's nest to go. Good house.